Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Kickin Back the Cat. But this time we're doing something different as it's officially spooky season. And if you know me, you know I love spooky season. Halloween is my favorite holiday. And I have with me one of my very first podcast interviewees, the homie Gabriel. Gabe, how are you today?
Good. Thank you for having me on. I'm excited to be back. Yeah, we were one of your first podcasts, right?
Yeah.
A long time ago.
I think my second guest, I think my very second interviews were you and the other guys. Like
Yeah.
insane. So much has
But
happened
yeah,
since then.
for
So it's
anyone
crazy.
who don't
But
know, part of Primal
how
Fear. Shout out to the rest of the boys.
yes, definitely one of my first. You were my first group interview.
Yeah.
Second interview altogether. So that's been pretty fun. How have you been enjoying spooky season so far?
Good. I'm actually I think I'm a little behind though. I don't think I've watched any scary movies yet, so I think I got to get on it.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I'm always watching scary movies, so I don't know if mine count because I'm always watching them. But I have watched a few specifically for Halloween this time, so I'm like, let's bring back some of the oldies but goodies. Um,
Yeah.
so
I think the last movie I seen was I went to the movies to go see Long Legs.
oh, nice. Yeah, I remember you said that you saw it, and I was kind of in the middle on it because I it was good, but there were parts I'm like, but I think
Yeah,
it's
I,
me
I
writing.
like it, but looking back, I see people have a lot of complaints about it that I think are fair.
Yeah, there were certain issues I have, but I also know I'm a bit picky about things because I'm a writer, and so I'm like, ooh, would I have done this? But that's just me
Yeah, well,
being a
I
bit.
always say I'm like the easiest person ever. Like I like every movie. Like a movie has to be like really bad for me not to like a movie.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I think what did I so I saw that and then I did see The Quiet. I don't know if that counts as horror, but like The Quiet Place Day One I did see.
I heard that was really good. Did you like it?
I actually did. I was very impressed. Where do people getting on my nerves, but it's just in general in situations like that. It's like,
Yeah,
can we not be dumb here, please? But
yeah.
that's all. But I actually thought it was very well done. I think I liked it more than the second one, honestly.
I never seen the second one, but I really enjoyed the first one. I thought it was like
Yeah,
really
first one
good.
was good.
So I would like to check them out.
Yeah, no, definitely check out two. I just I felt like sometimes it's okay not to have a two, but it was okay. It just wasn't probably my top. And so I'll put one and then the prequel, like
Oh,
in that
okay.
order. Because I thought I was very impressed. I was like, okay, I like this. It makes sense. And of course, New York City, where I'm from.
Yeah.
So it's like everything always goes down in New York.
I don't want to talk about New York right now, all right? Because you guys are beating the Phillies pretty good right now. That's the scariest thing I've seen so far this month is this game today.
I'm gonna assume you're talking about baseball.
Yep, that's not good.
I've heard people saying things and I was like, to be fair, I don't watch enough sports to know what's I just know the Yankees and Mets both made it and I was like, oh, okay, well this is okay. If it gets anywhere serious, I guess I'll check it out, but
Yeah,
otherwise I haven't watched.
from our end so
So
far.
Philly, New York, I understand. I understand the vibes. I talk shit in Philly as well, so I get it. So for I guess as a fellow horror person like I am, what was kind of for you when you realized like, okay, I like horror for me is literally my top genre. I would probably put that over anything.
Yeah,
Um for me personally, I'm like, oh, I'll put a scary movie on, and I have scary
yeah.
movies on in the background. Like I go to sleep with scary movies on. It's yeah, I'm that person. And so, for you, what was when you realized, like, oh, I love these movies. Like even if it's super cheesy, or if it's like super gory, or if it's like, oh, this is a bit weird. What was it like for you, like about the age when you're like, oh, this is my jam?
I like tell people like for me being like a little kid, one of the first things like I remember for like a movie is the end of Friday the 13th when they're putting the chain around them. and he's going to the bottom of the lake. And like ever since then, I was like, that was like the coolest thing I've ever seen. Like, you know, they were on fire. There was this big monster that was on fire. Like they were fighting. Ever since then, I think I just have always liked horror movies. And like I remember like literally like being in like kindergarten and like getting in trouble for like, you know, bringing like horror movies to school to like show the other kids. Like, but I just have always watched them. I got my shirt on right now, dressed for the occasion.
Nice.
But yeah, I would say probably like specifically it was like I don't even know if I liked like horror movies as a little kid as much as I liked Friday the 13th. Like I would just watch them. And then as I got older, I kind of started to branch into like, you know, other horror movies, obviously. Still to this day, I prefer like slasher movies, I think. You know, I just like to kind of go into the movie and just kind of kick back and see like what kind of stupid ways can these people, you know, get themselves killed. I feel like a lot of horror movies now are like a little too serious and they just kind of like make me like sad. And you know, it's like I like them for like the fun, like over the top, like goofy aspect of them. Not to say I know people will get upset because like horror movies have definitely experienced like an extreme increase in quality. Like and like they're actually like good movies now. And like you know, I appreciate that, but also like I don't know, sometimes I just want to watch people get like cut in half with a chainsaw.
Yeah, I feel like slashers is probably now my chew because before it was slashers for me. But I feel like I'm more now paranormal horror just because for me it's like, oh, I think from the aspect of like when people ask me why do you watch horror movies, I was like, because it's not me. It's not happening to me. So like it's easy for me to like watch some other poor person
Go
do
through something like
dumb.
terrible. Absolutely.
So like for me, I feel like paranormal in the aspect because I don't get scared easily. Not that paranormal movies scare me, but it's just
See,
like,
I do
okay, well,
though, like they are the only type of movies that I would say are like scary. Like
yeah.
not like, you know, like slasher movies. Like I don't think they're like scary, like but like some like paranormal like man, there's some pretty scary movies.
Yeah, no, it's definitely that like aspect of like you going into your house and you're like, oh, there's something in here, and you can't see that something's in here. I'm like, all right, that's a bit unsettling. Still not scary because again, it's not me. I don't think I'll be that calm about it if it was me, but yeah, I think like slashers are probably my favorite in regards to just. Do I think people are dumb? Yes, because I'm like
Yeah.
some of the things, guys. I don't know. Why do you need to do this? Like to the end of time, I will always complain. I love Scream. The first Scream is one of my favorites of the series, obviously. But
That's the best movie ever.
like the classic, like I thought the kills were great. I thought the opening sequence was great. But realistically, I'm like, why are we having conversations with people in the 90s? Like this is crazy. Like now and then like for it to be now we're using like smartphones and I'm like, so we've learned nothing in all this time to like
Yeah, it's still going.
like why are you answering phone numbers or answering people you don't know? Like there's literally the whole spam feature in phones. Like you don't even need to look at this. Like like why have we learned nothing from the 90s? But would you say you have a favorite of the Friday 13th series? Because there's so many now.
You know, my answer will change a lot because I really like part 6, Jason Lives. But I also love the last like 15 minutes of part 7, which is the one when the girl is like psychic and she's just like beating Jason's ass for like the last like 15 minutes of that movie. It's like my favorite like thing from movies ever. And then I also though really like Jason X, and people get mad at me for that, but I think that movie is awesome. And then sometimes I might say Freddy versus Jason is my favorite one. So I don't think I have an answer.
I'm definitely sorry, not Jason X. I'm definitely kind of like, whoa, what do you mean? Because
I think Jason X is it's so much fun. It's just the most ridiculous thing like anyone could ever think of happening. It's awesome.
I think I saw something earlier about Freddy versus Jason. And I was like, that to me was pure nonsense because it was. But also, I like Freddy. That's probably my favorite slasher.
Yeah, I
So,
think that he's probably number 2 for me.
so for me, it's like, of course, if you're asking who I'm picking of the two, I'm going to pick Freddy because he's actually my favorite slasher. Just because I like the aspect of if you're supposed to be sleeping, he's there. Kind of like it's like the one place you should be okay at is when you're sleeping, and he's like, no,
Yeah.
I'm not safe here. And so I think that's the aspect I like from as a slasher is just not so much him being weird with children because that's kind of weird, but like the whole aspect of you're like sleeping and you're not even safe sleeping, and I like that aspect of it. But okay,
They did a good job of
I haven't
getting
seen
away
Jason X in
from
so long because I just really did not.
it. Yeah, they did a good job of getting away from
They did.
the kid stuff with him as the movies went on.
Yeah, they mention it like little bits in
Yeah.
pieces. You're like, wait a minute. But also, he, to be fair, he did get paid back. He had some sort of payback for it, and so like him being, weird, and the parents was like, all right. And I'm like, as a parent, I get it. I don't know if I'll
Yeah.
go back, but I get it. So at least he got some type of there was some justice and extent to it, even though he wound up coming back to torment them anyway. But can't win them all, I guess.
What about the remake? What do you think about that?
So I watched it the first time I watched it. I did not like it. I just had issues with certain parts of it. I watched it again just because sometimes I'll just rewatch and like maybe I'll look at it in different eyes. I still don't like it as much, but it's not as terrible as I originally thought it was when I first watched it. Because the first time I was like, we don't need this. Also, part of me is just I don't really think people need to keep redoing killers that were classic killers to me. So it's like we don't need to have like Freddy like in 40 years. Here's a new
Yeah.
Freddy because why? It's unnecessary. I feel like as cheesy as Nightmare on Elm Street was, and at some points they were very campy and very cheesy, it was also like still classic. And so it's like you don't really necessarily need to like redo it. But it wasn't terrible.
Well,
I
see,
liked it a little better more than I did the first time.
I think that one's pretty bad. But on the flip side, I think the Friday the 13th remake is pretty good.
I will agree there. I do think the Friday the 13th remake was pretty solid.
And that's
Also, I like
and I don't know why.
I mean, to be fair, Jared Padalecki from Supernatural, that's my guy right there. And so I was like, okay, I see you're in this. And then it was kind of cool seeing Daniel Panabaker, which I remember from like Sky High. And I was like, I remember she was a little hero in that movie.
Yeah.
And so like it's kind of cool to see the opposite of her. Like now you're kind of in this the screaming role. Like it's very different.
Yeah.
And so I was happy about that. But I actually did like the remake more honestly than this Freddy. I feel like also I associate Freddy with like Robert Englund because everybody knows that's Freddy. And it's like at least with like Friday the 13th, this guy like we know who the original guy is, but also he's wearing a mask, and it's not so like jarring, I guess. And like even with like Michael Myers, he's wearing a mask, so it's not so jarring when you can tell like with Robert Englund's face paint, like you can still see his face, even though there's like all that stuff on it. And so yeah.
Yeah, and he's just such a good actor.
I was had my kids watch the last season of Stranger Things, and I was trying to see if they was going to recognize who he was. If I don't know, hope I'm not spoiling that for anybody, but like if you haven't seen it by
now, yeah. So I didn't recognize that was him the first time I watched it.
I had to get my kids.
That freeze.
I think you got quiet.
Back, like yeah, I think I'm back. Here we go.
No, I can see you. I just can't hear you.
Can you hear me now? Am I good? Yeah.
You're good.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that first time I watched that, I didn't recognize that was him. And then I felt real dumb when everyone was like, oh, that was so cool. Robert Englund was in Stranger Things. And I was like, wait, what?
Yeah, to be fair, my kids did not get it. And I was like looking at them like, yeah, I know who this is. To be fair, I'm that person. And so I know I would know, but they was like, no. And I was like, Freddy Krueger, guys. And it was like, oh, I couldn't tell. And I was like, well, to be fair, like the face looks the same. He's just not wearing all that like makeup.
Yeah.
And of course his eyes are like messed up, but like his face looks the same. But also favorite slasher, so I feel like I'm probably a little bit more extra than most people would have figured it out. we're gonna deviate quickly to some of the cool memorabilia I saw. I think that was one of the things that kind of one of our first conversations on like, Instagram was like, oh, dude, this is so cool. So like, what made you start wanting to collect? That's something I do want to do at some point is start collecting certain horror movie things just to kind of have as a crazy horror movie person. And so what kind of made you start to like, I'm going to start collecting these type of items?
I think so. Growing up, my dad was always like a big collector of stuff like sports memorabilia, you know, which I am too. As you can see, I got Mike Tyson behind me here. I got The Rock over here. Got to represent. But when I was a kid, like I said, I love Friday the 13th, and I was at a convention on the Wildwood Boardwalk, and there was a autographed Friday the 13th like Jason mask, and my dad got it for me, and I think kind of ever since then it just started where I just kept kind of accumulating things. I'm in an apartment now, so I don't have as much of my horror stuff that I used to have around. But I do have still with me the hockey mask that's signed. I have the script for the original Friday the 13th signed by Kevin Bacon, which I thought was pretty cool. In storage, I have a signed Freddy vs. Jason poster, which is cool because it's Robert Englund and Ken Kersinger who played Jason in that movie, which I'm a little upset it wasn't Kane Hodder, but, you know, that's a whole different conversation. And I'm trying to think. I have a Bill Skarsgård Pennywise pop signed by him, which is pretty cool. I have from Trick or Treat. I have a signed pop of Sam, who's one of my favorite horror characters, and I think is like an icon of Halloween now. And I think besides that, that might be it. I've slowed down a little bit because my walls are filled already, and I'm running out of stuff. But yeah, it's like something I've literally like almost my whole life I've been a collector of different type of memorabilia. You know, I have wrestling stuff, I have sports stuff, and movies are something that are, you know, very important to me. So I have movie stuff. They just kind of also happen to be horror because I guess that's my my favorite type of films to watch. And I feel like there would be no, I don't know, like I don't even know what other stuff you would collect. Like what, you know, what other movies are there that you could collect cool stuff from?
I guess that's true. I feel like if I got anything from like Tim Curry because he's been in so much horror stuff, I would love to have that. To be fair, because I think he's obviously the first Pennywise, but
Yeah,
he's been in so many different things where his range is pretty like wide, but like he's done so much horror stuff that it's like
yeah. Like that's like I'm like really trying to think now of like other stuff like from a movie that I like, and I would be like, I don't even know like what you would get from that. You know, like it's so easy in horror. You just get like a knife and they sign it. Like it's right there.
So you mentioned Bill Skarsgård. So what are your thoughts between the original miniseries and chapter 1 and part 1, part 2 of the newer version with Bill Skarsgård?
I love both of the remakes of that movie. I think they're really good. I think the original is good for like what it was, but it was also so limited because like it was made for TV, you know, like so they couldn't really get into like all the stuff they could. But I mean, like you said, like Tim Curry is like that's like the most, you know, iconic performance like ever. People of still a lot of people when they think of that character, you know, they think of him. I think Bill Skarsgård kind of played the character differently. He wasn't like as funny and like as lighthearted as like Tim Curry approached it. I think they both did good things with that character and played them differently, which is good.
Yeah, as a huge Stephen King fan, because I definitely a huge one, I feel like I liked both of them for different reasons. So I feel like on the gore aspect, the newer versions were closer to it. on what he
Yeah.
did. But I felt like they did change some things, and I was like, I feel like some parts of the story make sense for the time period. Like it doesn't make sense. Like
Yeah,
I
and
guess
that's
them
a
starting
story.
at
I was like,
base.
I read that book when
Yeah.
I was in middle school. Which was crazy to look back on because it's like a 1,500 page book. I don't think I would ever do that again. But so that's a character that I've always loved, and it was cool to see it kind of get it was a big deal when that first movie came out. I remember going to different theaters and it was sold out because I wanted to see it the night it came out. I had to drive to 3 or 4 different movie theaters before I was able to get in, and I thought it was cool to see that from I said a character that I kind of always was a fan of. I almost watched the original the other day. I needed something to watch, and I went to click play, and I seen that it was 4 hours, and I was just like, "Oh my god, it's just too much."
Yeah, it definitely is. I feel like if you watch the original, you have to kind of do it when you have a day to kind of just
Yeah,
be like, all right, I don't gotta do
it's
much today. I can watch this.
yeah, it's all, but that's one that is nostalgic because I remember being a little kid and picking that movie up from Blockbuster because the cover of it was so cool. He was the clown, but he had the monster claw coming through. And I remember being terrified of sewer drains for a long time as a kid from that movie. So it definitely was impactful.
Yeah, no, that's definitely probably one of my favorite Stephen King books. And I think I just explained this to somebody a few days ago. It's I think the reason why I like it is how he describes what it is. Um, and part of me being a writer is part of oh yeah, I can really see it. But
Yeah.
definitely one of my favorite movies. I definitely think this is probably one of his better adaptations because some of his adaptations has made me very upset. Cause I'm like, what is this? I'm still angry about this to this day. I am still upset about that. So have not forgiven him for that. With The Mist.
Did you watch the
I'm
new one
every
on
year.
HBO? The
The new
Salem's
Mist.
Lot. Yeah, Salem's Lot just came out.
No, I have not started it yet. I do plan on watching it though, because I was iffy about the original Salem's Lot, but I did enjoy the book, and so I was like, all right, let me wait, and then I'm gonna just kind of go in and watch it because I want to see if they get it close. I mean, he gave it praise, so I mean, I guess that's something, right?
I heard
He
it's
praised
pretty
it.
bad.
It's bad. Oh God.
I'm not hearing good.
Oh man. Oh, that I was hoping they got better with making sure they kind of do his adaptations right,
Yeah,
but
it's weird.
I guess you can't. I guess when you got the one guy who's known for horror, it's
Yeah,
might be a pretty high thing to climb when he's the known guy for horror stuff.
yeah. I feel these adaptations more times than not come out bad than good.
Yeah, no, a lot of his can definitely be some are good and some oh guys. Why did you do this? I mean, some of his other ones that's not so hard. I know people like Green Mile, and that was his. But
Yeah,
I had someone was
I
like,
like
yes, yeah,
Misery.
it sounds weird that he could have wrote that, but
Yeah,
it is his. He did write it. It just seems off that Stephen King would write something like The Green Mile, but he did. And so it's yeah, people of that movie, for the most part, and with this Stand by Me, which was his as well.
yeah.
It just depends on who gets the dedication. But to be fair, sometimes some of the stuff he writes is can you really pull that off well? Because the joke is, back in the day, Stephen King was writing everything, high as hell. So
Yeah.
He might have been just really craziness because he technically was high as kite.
Yeah.
Did you enjoy I was telling a friend about how much I used to watch Tales from the Crypt. Love that show.
Yes.
Were you fans of stuff like that, or did you watch Eerie and Anna or Goosebumps, that kind? Was that something to be fair, I felt it was tame considering I was reading Stephen King at 6, but
Yeah.
but I still wanted to watch it. Goosebumps, had to watch it, had to watch Tales from the Crypt every Saturday night. Was that something you liked watching? And if so, do you have a favorite episode? from like
Yeah,
television?
so uh, I definitely watched both of them. Goosebumps. I mean, I was a Goosebumps kid. You know, I read all the books. I used to love the show. But Tales from the Crypt, I remember I was very young for, but I remember watching it, and the one episode that always like specifically sticks out to me is about the guy that was the executioner for the electric chair, and then he gets fired, and then he goes around and he's like still like setting up like all, and I don't know why, but for whatever reason, like that episode is just like carved into my brain. I remember being like a little kid and being in like a hotel room somewhere, like with my family, and watching that episode on the TV. And I think that's really the only Tales from the Crypt. I like the movies. I remember watching the movies.
Was there like three of them? I think, right? I'm not. I
Yeah,
think there
and
were
then
three.
one there was like one like weird like old one that one time I picked up at like a convention, and it was like the worst movie I ever seen. I don't. I think it was like a ripoff. I think I got like a bootleg.
I feel that's
Yeah,
just kind of where I realized I was like, oh, I thought I watched a horror movie, and then I see something, I'm like, what is
yeah.
this? And then I watch it, like, this is probably why I never watched this because what is this? I feel like
There's
content definitely conned me into buying something. The game's gonna be great, and then I'm like, oh, it's not great at all.
I know. I'm just always like, oh, I'll watch it, and I'm like, oh my god, it was so bad.
And as
I
somebody who like watches a lot of enough movies, it's like, oh, I can't get that hour or two back.
Yeah, I know. Well, that's like I never
I,
have time to sit down and watch a whole movie. So like when I do watch a bad movie, I'm like, man, that just killed me. Like, what am I gonna do now? That was like my whole night.
yeah, yeah, no, it's tough. I so when I do watch something, I want it to be good because it's like otherwise you're kind of like stuck with time you can't get back, and that might have been the one free moment you had too, and so you're like, oh, the worst.
Yeah, I know. I have a bad problem where I look up the reviews for the movies and even will like spoil it before I see it, just because, like you said, I don't want to go see a bad movie.
No, I mean I hear you. I feel like it depends on what the movie is. I feel like if it's like if I can review that's spoiler free and it seems like it's good, I'm like, all right. If it's a movie that I'm like, it's kind of questionable, then I might
Yeah,
check now, read what was the problem with somebody, and I'm okay with now knowing that this might be a spoiler, and that's fine. If it saved me like an hour or two, whatever it costs now for movies, because I feel like it depends on theater. I heard some different prices, so like somebody was like 10, and I was like, where are you going? That it's $10 for a rare day, like that's
yeah, that's great. I got Cinemark Movie Club.
at least like rarely. So I was like, oh, where you guys live? It's not New York, clearly. Um,
Yeah, I'm sure up in New York, it's probably crazy to go to a movie.
oh, I think we're good now. Today. I think I can't hear you though. you, I feel like I see you, but I can't hear you. Are you good?
Yeah, am I good
Can
now?
you hear
You
me?
back? There we go.
Yeah, I hear you now. The internet, right? It's always something.
It might be me too. I don't know how good my internet is here.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes my internet does nonsense too, so I don't even know. I just know I'm seeing you, but then you're like going out, and I'm like, oh man, I
Yeah.
can't hear. um, Damn, I got distracted. I forgot what I was about to say next to that statement, but I just reworked back to that question that I had. But would you say there's any more recent movies that you can put on some of your top lists?
Ooh.
How about classic? But like any recent movie, you're like, oh, this is one of my top.
Yeah. I don't know about like maybe all time, but The Menu. Did you see that? That was pretty good. I guess that came out like maybe 2 years ago now, which is I don't know if that still counts as recent.
Yeah.
I liked Long Legs. I thought Long Legs was cool. I don't know if I would call that necessarily like a scary movie. I think it was like an unsettling movie, but I thought it was cool. I enjoyed Skinamarink, but I don't think I would ever watch it again in my life. But I thought that was cool to watch like one time and experience like a nightmare like on film, which is how I feel like that movie was.
Yeah.
Oh, I watched Late Night with the Devil. I thought that was cool. There was little things in it I wish they would have done differently, and I think it would have been like an all-timer. But besides that, I thought it was good. I'm trying to think. I hated the newest Halloween. I think yeah, so I think that might be it. That's my review on modern horror movies. Oh, In a Violent Nature. That was cool. In a Violent Nature on Shudder was cool. Shudder has good stuff. Shudder puts out really good stuff. I feel like there's a lot of movies I missed though that I gotta watch. Like I heard the first Omen is really good. I heard. I didn't get to check that out. Cuckoo I heard is pretty good. I didn't get to see that. And in theaters right now, The Substance I hear is like the greatest horror movie ever. So I'm hoping to kind of check that out.
I haven't watched that one yet either. I don't think I did watch Late Night with the Devil, which I did like. I do think
Yeah,
there were parts that would have changed as well. But considering how they played it, like, because it was like kind of like a possession movie, but a very different way to tell a possession. I was like, okay, I wasn't expecting that, and that's pretty cool.
yeah, I thought it was really like well done when it was being shot as the TV show. I didn't like when they broke away from it being the TV show.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I thought it was a very different take on that. And I was like, okay, I like it. I've seen it like twice. I saw it in a theater and then I saw it again with somebody else to kind of like I needed their thoughts. And it's like, okay, watch this movie.
Yeah,
So tell me what you think
yeah,
about this. Like if I'm being like picky, but I know sometimes I'm picky just because it's like, could we have done this? But I do think it was pretty well done considering. I did see it in a violent nature, but I don't know how I feel about it. Like I saw
yeah.
it, it was
Yep.
just like I think like there were parts that were like good, but then there was parts that was like, but why was this how we told? Like, why was this the choice? I think of how to do this part. I think that was parts I kind of had problems with that, but it wasn't bad.
Yeah, I think the biggest problem today is that all these movies just get so overhyped that you go in with such a high like expectation. Like Long Legs, they were saying like, "Oh, this is going to be the scariest movie ever." Like In a Violent Nature, they were saying like, "Oh, it's the craziest, most brutal movie," and like it had its moments, but like it wasn't like that crazy of a movie. And I think that they don't do themselves any favors by promoting it like that because now you're just going in with such high expectations. I feel like it's the same thing like that like Terrifier has, like people, you just hear about how it's just like this craziest movie ever, and it's just, I don't know. That movie's I'm kind of on the fence about.
Yeah, Terrifier, I think I was okay. I liked the first one. I thought for what it was and the premise, I was like, okay, this works. I do think now Terrifier is put on such a pedestal now that it's like, I don't know how that new one's going to be because you guys are doing too much, and usually you guys do too much is very rarely exactly what you guys are saying. Um,
Yeah, it's very weird that like this movie is like now gone on to be like the like biggest brand in horror. It's like it's very interesting to see.
yeah. I know a few people who are like really huge Terrifier fans, and it's like, oh, okay, well, you know, do you? Um, I mean, I love horror, but I don't know if I'm like that with any character, and I love quite a few, but I mean,
Yeah,
I guess we'll see because I feel like now they're having it where kids, not that you should have really had kids in movies like under a certain age. I take myself out of this because I clearly was a weird kid. I was watching stuff I probably shouldn't be watching and reading stuff I probably shouldn't be reading, but outside of me, um, I don't know why anybody would take their kid to see like Terrifier, knowing like how gory it is. It's like, why would you want your
yeah,
kid to see that unless that's, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like also, oh, I guess know your kid because like my mom let me because I was like okay with watching it and have like nightmares
yeah.
and stuff. I guess know your kid,
I
but
think it's like funny how like this whole movie just gets sold on like the idea of like you said it's just like it's just going to be like the bloodiest movie ever. Like the movie's not going to be good maybe, but like there's going to be a lot of blood in it, and people are like, yeah.
it's so true.
But
So
like you
I
said,
kind of,
everyone gets their
yeah,
opinion. I'll go
that is
see
true.
it for sure because like I feel like it's such a like cornerstone of like horror now that like you kind of have to, or like like you can't say like you're a horror fan if you don't go see these Terrifier movies. And I like this. I watched the second one. I thought parts of it were cool. I thought it was way too long. I don't think any horror movie should ever be 3 hours, but
Yeah,
it was cool. I like to see what this clown does. I think he's an entertaining character. Like Art the Clown, the idea of him is cool. I think the actor who plays him is like very impressive and does a great job playing that character and being so like expressive without ever talking. It's like it's impressive to see. So like I appreciate that part of it. I don't know. I don't think I need to like that's another one where I feel like you watch it and it's just kind of like you just like feel like bad after. You just kind of feel like
yeah.
gross. You just watch like people just get like tortured for hours. I don't know. I think I'm
Kind of
getting
how it was. Yeah, it could definitely be a part of like we're getting a little older.
I
It's kind of how I
definitely
felt like.
when I was a little kid, I loved like the Hostel movies,
I
and
was
I
just about
tried
to
to
talk
watch.
about that.
Yeah, and I tried to watch them recently, and I was like, "Oh my god, dude, why? Like, why did I used to like?" And like, I used to like them. Like, I thought they were like, "No, dude, they're so cool." I can't even look at it now.
Yeah, I realized that recently too. And I was just about to bring Hostel because of how gory it was and people basically being tortured. The first one, I still feel like it has a leg to stand on, but I'm like, I definitely watched these more than once, and now I'm
Yeah,
just like, I could probably come back to watch this again later on. I don't need to watch it right now, and I think it might have just be we're getting a little older. I think that's we're not as happy about, I guess, the much blood, I guess, as
yeah.
we might have
I
been
think so. I really
years
felt
ago.
it during the one Halloween Kills, and the one scene when he kills the old people. I like felt so bad about it, and I was like, "Oh my god, what's happening? Like, why do I feel this way watching this movie?" But yeah, I think as I get older, it's like some of the stuff I'm getting softer looking at. I felt bad. I was like, "Why is Michael Myers killing the old people? They didn't do anything."
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I think Michael Myers is probably one of the killers who kind of knew he didn't care who he killed, but
Yeah,
also I did. But I think part of me was also a little annoyed because, like, when they basically, I was like, why didn't y'all jump him? He's old now. Like, jump him. Like, why not let him like beat you up one by one. Like, y'all gotta do something here. Like,
Yeah.
it's older now. Y'all gotta get together as a group, as a unit. Once that happened, I was like, all right, guys, see, I was rooting for Michael by the end of that. I was like, here's why.
Yeah,
Why are you guys not?
I get a lot of heat for it. I like that Halloween Kills movie. I mean, obviously, I think parts of it are pretty stupid. Like the whole thing when like they think like the other guys, like Michael Myers, is like extremely dumb. But like besides that part, I think that movie's pretty cool because again, it's just super cool kills. Like he is like killing everybody in that movie, and like all in really cool ways. But yeah, the end of that movie kind of lost me a little bit, and then the one after is like the worst movie ever. Halloween Ends is just so bad.
Yeah, that was the one I was rooting for him because I was like, you guys can't be this ridiculous. Like, why? I'm like, you know what, Michael, do you like? It's like have fun. Halloween Kills, I definitely do think it had really interesting kills. I thought that was kind of like if you thought about slashers back in the day, that was top.
Yeah,
like for
like
a
if you
newer
want
movie, I'm like, this is the kind of stuff we watched like growing up. Is these type of crazy kills. You're like, oh, that's like, oh man. But that last one, I was like, I was rooting for him because I was like, you guys are not can't be this dumb. But this is crazy. Like you guys,
I
like,
was so happy they put that movie on Peacock, and I watched it on Peacock instead of going to the movies. And the whole time I was just thinking, like, man, I would have been so upset if I went to the movies to go see this movie. It's the only time I'm happy that I didn't go to the movies to watch a movie.
I've definitely had a few of those. So I'm like, oh, thank God it's been ready to watch this in the theater because we're just like, you're annoyed. Like, I would have been so upset. I always just bring it back to The Mist because I'm like, that movie pissed me off when it was like, what is that, 2007, I think. But knowing the end was not the way that end's supposed to be, and Stephen King fan, and I'm like, whoa, what's this? I just wanted to be surprised to us, upset because I was like, we didn't have to do all this. This was so unnecessary. Like, and so that was the movie I was highly obsessed with money on because I was like, oh, we are. Your cat does what my cat does. Like I had to go.
That's back to movies and movies being cool. That's Rocket. He's named after Rocket Raccoon from Guardians of the Galaxy.
Nice. That's cool.
A movie nerd. So
I adopted mine, so like she had her name already, and I didn't want to change that. But I don't know what I would have named her. It probably would have been some horror movie reference. To be fair,
it's hard. Naming animals is very hard.
she just had a name, and I was like, you know what, this works. I'm not changing anything. You clearly got your name. It's fine. But as soon as my laptop is open, she sees it. She comes, and now she wants to be loving. So like, all of a sudden, like any other time pays me no mind.
I was expecting him to be way worse. He's actually been pretty well behaved.
So have you, I know like you like with your tag team is kind of just like slight wrestling but back to movies, but like you guys have the whole primal fear, the whole like the vibe, I guess, that people should fear you, not necessarily the way we're talking about in horror movies, but have you ever like drawn from some of like your faves, kind of incorporate that into at least your character in your group?
Yeah, I mean, for sure, like the most evident part of it, and like the people who get it, it always like I'm like, oh, that's so cool. Is like obviously like the name Gabriel Hodder is in reference to Kane Hodder, who plays Jason and is the best Jason and should have played Jason forever, and they should have never got rid of him. But so that is like a cool little way that I feel like I'm kind of always tied to horror movies. Not so much anymore, but like back in the day, like I used to paint my face. Like that was very horror movie inspired. Whenever I get a chance, I just did it recently because it's Halloween and I can do it. I have a custom like painted Jason mask that I like to wear to the ring. It's kind of just little ways to show that horror is like a big part of, like you said, our character, and especially like the roots of our character, where we were basically just horror movie characters when we first started. So yeah, keep up tight. It's an important part of my life, and I feel like horror and wrestling kind of go like hand in hand. There's like a huge crossover of like most wrestling fans are also horror movie fans. It's like a big and like metal. It's like all just kind of one world.
Yeah. Think of like The Undertaker or like
Yeah.
The Brood.
Yeah.
Where like kind of metal, but also kind of creepy, kind of
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I don't know if wrestling fans at my level of horror. I say I'm like, yeah. I think a friend of mine, she's a wrestling fan too, where she was like, "You watched The Conjuring just because," and I was like, "Yeah."
Yeah.
Like, she's like, "Why is it just on in the background? You're just doing everything. It's just playing," and I'm like, "Because it's like I've watched that movie so much that it's like I probably know off word for word. Like it's bad, but I also
That's a
think
couple.
for a
That's a
paranormal
good.
movie, I think
Yeah. That's
yeah,
a
I'm
Conjuring
like that's
good
probably one of
movie.
my top yeah, one of my top favorite paranormal movies is The Conjuring. I feel like it was just so well done. And I'm like, I'm so picky about paranormal movies. And so that one, I'm like, listen, this is creepy. And sure, they might have embellished with some stuff, but that's horror movies. You expect some
Yeah.
embellishment. But like,
You know
like
what the
that
number
is
one?
pretty.
Yeah. What I
Uh,
forgot I would say is one of my favorites. Sinister.
yes. I love that movie. Top tier. Top tier.
Yeah.
One of
The
my
second
favorites.
one is horrible, but the first one is terrifying.
I actually scared my kids with that one time.
Yeah.
Not
That
my
movie's
oldest, but my son in particular, because he was always doing stuff. And I'm like, I'm about to get this guy on you. And he like believed it for a while. He was like, what do
that's
you
like
mean?
he's a scary looking character, man. Like that the design of that monster in that movie is like very jarring.
Yeah. I was like, you see
Yeah,
these
that's
kids? You see what happens to these kids? It's gonna
yeah.
be
That's
he
scary.
believed it
That's
for a
not
bit. He was
fun.
like, why would you say that? And I'm like, because they're not listening to their parents. So clearly that's what's happening here. It worked for a little bit, but yeah, he hated. So nice to say that. I'm about to go get him on you since you playing around. But I definitely do think that's one of like a really good like off the box type creepy character. Definitely, I think they did a really
Yeah,
good job.
at
I
that
love
like time period, there was like a lot of good movies coming out. That was like when The Conjuring was coming out, Sinister was coming out, like Insidious. There was really good horror movies coming out. Like that was like I guess like the early 2010s. Is that how you say that? It's weird
I
time.
think so. That's revealing my age, but but yeah, no, Insidious is actually one of my top five. That well, The Conjuring is too. It's like just another movie I just have playing, and I'm just doing things and like working, and I'm like, oh, well, it's back, it's on, and they're like, why are you just watching it? I don't know, it's just background noise now. It's just,
Have you
it's
ever
just
seen Grave Encounters?
yes, I have.
That's another one from that time.
That's one of my like. I mean, obviously, some things are like pure ridiculous and not, but I thought
Yeah.
for the concept of found film type movie, it was well done. I
Yeah.
did enjoy it. I think I liked the first one better than the second one,
Oh
but
yeah.
I thought it was well done. I was like,
Scary.
okay, guys.
Parts of that movie are like very scary, especially the ending.
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely one of my like probably like favorite found one of my favorite found film movies where it's like they found some footage. Um
Yeah.
those are the movies my friend always would jokingly say she believes because she was like, it's always these random people I've never ever heard of, and it's like a found thing. She said, of course I believe this. It's not. I've never seen this person in another movie again, but
Yeah.
this is why I believe it. And I'm like, she's
That's
like, if it's a
true.
movie where somebody, it's a celebrity that I've seen. I'm like, if I seen a celebrity, I know this is fake. But it's some
Yeah.
random person you've never seen in another movie. I believe that this happened, and I was like, I mean, I can see it, I guess. But they're
That's what
alive
made
and
the
well.
Blair Witch so good. That they were like, "Oh my God, these are just kids! Like real kids went missing."
Random people, some random
Yeah.
teens in the woods, and then it was like the most basic looking people too. So like of
Like,
course it looked like okay, they might have something might have happened to them. I thought, well, that's when the found footage thing started, right? I think it was Blair Witch with the
yeah,
first like
that
found
like that
footage.
would be like if you watch it now, like it's kind of boring. It drags a little bit, but like watching that, like, you know, before like found footage was like a thing, that was like terrifying because it was so slow and like so boring that it did seem real. It just seemed like you found this camera and you watch these kids just get lost in the woods.
And then never see it again. Yeah, I mean, personally, I always joke, like, why are you guys picking up films and watching them? But
Yeah.
that's just me being very cautious because why are we doing that? But also, yeah, I kind of like it did look more because it wasn't anything over the top right away. Like it didn't get lure. It was a little bit extra towards the end when you finally was like, oh, this is bad. Like
Yeah, and the
once you
kid,
got
you
to them
really
in the house.
yeah.
Yeah. It was like once they got into the house, it was like, okay, this might be bad. Because like it took so long to get to that point. But it worked. I mean, yeah, it's definitely gave way to good some good found footage because I don't think all of them are great. Like I did thought some of the paranormal activities are cool, but I also thought they didn't know when to stop.
Yeah, absolutely. Except one of the random, like later on sequels is like the best one in the whole series. I think it's called the Marked Ones, and it's better than any of the other ones in the movies. And it's just like one of like
I
the
actually
random. Like,
do not like that one.
oh, really? I
No,
thought that
I
one was
do
so
not like that
good.
one. I don't know why. It's something about it I don't like. I think the first one was like, it's not bad. I was okay with the second one. I like the
Yeah,
third one. I think I like the whole premise that it was your family. Like that really kind of sucks. It's like you're only in this because your family was in God knows what, and now here we are.
and the
And I
third
think I
one
mean,
is like really the first one, right? They're all like out of order.
yeah,
There
the
were
third
lots
one
of
was supposed to be them as kids, yeah, and like
yeah.
basically grandma was just having a time apparently to put them in that shit. But I was like, I like that, but I think what really like sold it for me is like I don't know if you remember the character Randy in the third one, but when he like was watching the kid and then he was like terrified and he was like kind of talking to himself through that he's terrified, but like trying to keep the girl calm. And I was like, that's like that felt like real enough that I'm like, oh, this guy is being a good person because he didn't leave that kid in the house because I might have left the kid. I'm just saying, as a mom, let's not do this. Like we have to leave, we have to dip. But he like tried to make sure he kept the girl calm until they got back home. And then he dipped, and I was like, that was nice. It was a nice little touch because he was trying to be a good person. I would have left, but good for you. I would have left. I'm not dealing with it. Saying this as a parent, I would have been gone. You're not catching me waiting until y'all get back home, and you just meet me at the hotel or meet me at my house. But no, none of this. But yeah, I did. I think that the third one was probably my favorite one. I think Ghost Dimension was okay.
Is that the one when they use like the Xbox Connect?
I think it was like a crazy looking video camera. It was like
Yeah.
really like like there were parts that I did like on that one, but there was other parts I was like, all right, guys, like
Is it the first one or this? One of them has like a genuine, very scary part when they're in the kitchen and all the pots fall from the ceiling. I don't know if it's in the first one or whatever one
I think
that might be the third.
that might be the third one. I think
That
when
one
she
is
finally,
really scary.
yeah, I think that's the third one when she finally realized that her husband was
Yeah,
saying was correct, and she was like, "Oh, it's not a big deal." And then she saw that, and she's like, "Okay, we need to leave." And I'm like,
yeah.
"Girl, like it took
Is that
too
the
long
one
for you
where
to
like
accept."
the kids live kind of like up like the steps and like yeah, that one's good. That one is good.
Yeah, that's my favorite one of the series. Is the third one when they were kids. Yeah, because
Yeah,
that
the
one
one
is
part
like,
the little girl's hair like gets picked up is it's pretty yeah.
yeah, it's pretty solid. I don't even know if there's any horror movies coming out recently because I feel like I'm so like, oh well, Smile 2 is coming out.
I
Did you
thought
like?
that first one was really good. I'm actually pretty excited for this. Although I heard this one now is like 2.5 hours long. And I don't know
Oh,
why
it's not
people
long.
need to make movies so long. I hate it. I have a short attention span.
I think certain horror movies don't need it to be long. I feel
No, that yeah.
like The Conjuring being almost 2 hours worked for me only because they kind of had to set some part of the story up. And I think
Yeah,
that made sense, but I do feel like sometimes horror movies can be like a good 90 minutes and that's fine.
I love that. I think that's like such a good for like horror movies. Get like an hour and a half, get in, show me what you got, and go home.
Yeah, I'm supposed to be seeing an early screening of Smile 2, so hopefully I didn't really like the first one started off well for me, and then I was like, I don't know, something fell for me in that. But hopefully the second one is good. And I do like that Jack Nicholson's son apparently is in it.
Yeah,
And
the
I never
idea
know.
looks cool, like with her being like a pop star, like, going through this. It's a cool idea.
Yeah, I'm hoping it's good. I'd have early access to it, so I will be seeing it I think next week, but early.
Uh,
So I'm like, hey, hopefully it's good. I hope. I
yeah.
hope I'm not sad. Like, God damn it! Why did I? Why? I'm hoping not, but um, it seems like it should be done well. And I do want to see what Jack Nicholson's son does because they made such a big deal, like, oh, that's his son. And I'm like, I didn't even know he had a kid, but I mean, I guess it makes sense. But I was like, his face is like his whole face all over again. It's so creepy.
I didn't know that. That's cool. Now I'm like a little more intrigued for the movie now.
Yeah, he's like, I saw like the promo for him, and it's him smiling. And if you look at any old Jack Nicholson where he's just being creepy, it works. It's like think of like The Shining, and you're like, oh,
Yeah.
okay. Like it literally, I was like, oh, this is kind of crazy that he looks so much like him, and even the smile and everything. But hopefully it's good. But oh man, I didn't realize what time it was. I didn't want to keep you too long, but this has been super fun chatting about like random horror movie stuff because
Yeah,
again, I
absolutely.
love
I love
Willow.
when I can come on and not really talk about wrestling and talk about like other interests.
Yeah. Yes, thank you. But yes, thank you so much for coming on. This was fun. It's like I said, it's been forever. And even though I will be talking to you again soon, wrestling wise.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
but
And we'll be back for a business
but
interview.
it was definitely nice to kind of like I love October. As soon as I was on spooky season to be fair since the end of August for me. I was counting down
I
to
feel like
Halloween.
I'm just year round. Like it's just I feel like it's just a little more acceptable now. But like I'm always like this is like one of my gym shirts. Something like the middle of the summer I wear it and people are like giving me weird looks and stuff.
Listen, I'm wearing Pennywise right now, so like
Cool shirt.
yeah, OG Pennywise. Yeah, I have quite a few like graphic tees, but a lot of them is horror movie graphic tees, and so I'm year round too, but I feel like I'm extra. Like once
Yeah.
August, and I'm like, oh guys, it's countdown because now you guys know it's spooky season, so I can be extra about it. But yes, no, you're a fellow horror movie person, so I'm always like cool to talk about that with anybody who likes what I like, in that regard. But tell everybody uh where they can find and follow you.
Absolutely. You can follow along on Instagram and X at fear_Gabriel13. You can follow along on YouTube. We are at True Primal Fear. Yeah, I think that's it. Follow along. We got some cool wrestling stuff coming up pretty soon. We just recently actually filmed a music video where we kind of got to be horror villains in it, and that's coming up this Friday. So that's something you can be on the lookout for. Yeah, thank you for having me on. I love to talk about how I'm a weirdo who grew up watching horror movies my whole life, and how that might have affected my outlook on life.
I always think of that meme where it was like me at 6 watching Jason like beat somebody in a tree, and I'm like, yes, that was
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
me.
I think, like I said, I always that's literally like one of my first memories is like watching Friday the 13th.
Yeah, I don't even know which one I watched first. I just know I watched them probably younger than I probably should have been watching, and my mom didn't care because I wasn't scared. She was like, if you had nightmares, you probably wouldn't have watched it. But she's like, you just was so regular about it. So it was like,
Yeah, and see, I had
probably
an
should have
October
told.
birthday, so I feel like Halloween. My birthday was near Halloween, so I always just kind of like scary stuff. And look, we turned out fine, right?
I mean, I feel like for the most part, I'm pretty okay. And like, I don't force my kids. My youngest one, I think, though, is getting to that vibe because now she actually likes Jason as well. So she like went really crazy about Friday 13th. She's like, I need a shirt. And I was like, all right, well, you know what? I can't say anything. I was watching it a lot younger than you are. So like
Yeah,
I
you
can't
got
even
yeah.
complain about
You got,
this. Like so yeah, she definitely is probably the one of my that's really close to the heart and everything like I am. My other two don't care. She does. So like you, one of you, not all of you, one of you, I got one of you, at least I got one of you. So but yes, this has been super fun. I enjoyed chatting with you, and we will catch you guys on the flip side. Bye guys.